Hello there everybody and welcome to another in-depth tournament analysis. This time it's Deadzone. Now the last time I played any games of Deadzone I believe was October at the previous tournament I went to. This is probably about my fourth Deadzone tournament I think. And it's a game I should play more often outside of tournaments really because it doesn't take up much time at all to get a few rounds of this in. Obviously it doesn't take up much space. And here we go. So this is Attack on Stockport, which would suggest that it's from Element Games / the Northwest Gaming Centre in Stockport. And a couple of unique features of this tournament. It escalates, shall we say. The first two games are 150 points, and then games 3 and 4 are at 200 points. And of course I took my Plague, because that's the only force that I have fully assembled and painted at this stage, although there will be some news on that front probably at the end of this video, if you want to stick around for those exciting developments. So I've got several pieces of paper in front of me here that are very important. Some of the scenarios in this tournament, by the way, are modified slightly from the main rulebook. So if there's anything that I think you need to know, then I will deliver that information to you, like an information carrying thing, a carrier pigeon, shall we say. Okay, so here is an image from the first game right at the start. We had 8 players at this tournament, so not a very big one, but Deadzone does tend to have a lower tournament turnout than Kings of War in this area, at least. I'm not sure if that's the same the world over. I'm sure there are some places that are just complete Deadzone hotbeds, which actually sounds like a bit of a contradiction, Deadzone hotbed, but never mind. There were 8 gaming tables as well, and I took my terrain down, so that meant that nobody was going to have to play on the same area twice, which is nice, especially for Deadzone where the terrain is such a huge part of it. In something like Kings of War, then it doesn't make a huge difference if you end up playing on the same table more than once. You can just put a hill on the other side and that's it. But with some of these Deadzone boards that people have made, some of the terrain is kind of a permanent fixture, and there aren't that many ways of rearranging it on some of them. So this one is obviously nice and red, as you can see. And this first scenario is invade. And the way that works is that there is one really juicy objective that you want to be sitting on near to the enemy's deployment area. So if you sit on that at the end of a round, then you get 4 or 5 victory points, I can't remember, but it's a lot. And then there are a couple of other lower scoring objectives on the center, that kind of area, that's just worth 1. If anyone's watching this live, by the way, drop something in the chat to let me know. And if you've got any valuable insight, throw it in there, but I'm not expecting a vast audience at this time of the day. So I'll go through my list then. As you can see on the table here, this is my 150 point list, and then when we get to the later games, I'll tell you what changed. So, over on my left flank, we've got a Plague Teraton hiding there. Teratons, of course, are one of those units that you want to be hiding a lot because you don't need to ever really see the enemy. You can just teleport through a wall to attack things. So he's starting there. The Mortar is an interesting one because if you can see people, then they can shoot back at you, but it also means that it's easier for you to hit them. So I've decided to put it mostly hidden, but if someone were to walk up to this area here, then I would have a nice view of them, which would make it easier to hit. But for the most part, it stays hidden. I'm not expecting it to hit that often, but particularly at the start of the game when the enemy are more bunched up, it's not that big of an issue because it can scatter as well. So even if it misses, there's a chance it'll still hit something in the early turns. Then there are 2 zombies in this cube here. A Plague Swarm, my leader, stage 1 there, backed up by an HMG wielding specialist who has ammo, which just makes up the final 2 points that are left over. And then there are 3 dogs down here hiding as well. So this is a Plague off in the first round. I'm against another Plague army. And you can see that there is my objective that I don't want the enemy to get onto because it'll be worth a lot of points to them. It's worth nothing to me, plenty to the opponent. And there is my opponents, which is very high up. And there's one that's worth 1 in the middle, and another one up there that's worth 1. So I'm going to have to do a bit of climbing to get onto the big juicy objective. And from this view, you can see a bit of the enemy already. You can see there's a stage 1 over there as well. There's also an aberration. I haven't got an aberration in my 150 point list. I felt having a stage 1 and an aberration was just too many points for too few models at this points level. But I have still got quite a few gribbly creatures. So, have I got a view of more of the opponent's forces? Well, I can definitely see a Teraton back there. And there is some more stuff lurking, which we'll come to, I suppose, in a moment when we get a better angle on it. So my stage 1 immediately moves up. I probably didn't get any move dice from my command dice in the first round if he's only moved 1 cube. And a zombie moving up. Oh, and what does the mortar do? Nothing, it missed. I don't take pictures of absolutely everything during a game of Deadzone because it's very, very quick and back and forth, so it's impossible to capture everything. But look at this lovely cinematic shot here of the plague swarm staring through to the enemy. So my overall plan is to just move forward, kill things, and I've spread out my force across both sides a little bit so I can react to whatever may come from each side. The Teraton is going through the most solidly blocked area where there's very little line of sight because he can just bounce through things. And you can see there the enemy, of course, have an HMG. Pretty standard to take one of those in a plague list. They're very inexpensive, don't give away a lot of points, and suppressing an entire cube is very, very potent. And look at that, he puts some damage onto the plague swarm immediately. And there's another dude. I don't think this guy has an HMG. I think he just has a regular gun, but I could be wrong. But he immediately downs my lady zombie there. Could be another HMG, that. Yep, so she's dead. My dog bounds up onto this 1 point objective there. So it's probably going to be shot by something, but this was late in the turn, so nothing left to shoot at him right now, so I'm going to be picking up that 1 point. Teraton moves up to the wall. Enemy Teraton this is. Now you'll see how close this is to mine in a minute. So one of my zombies moves up there. And my HMG is now springing into action. And suppresses the enemy HMG. Doesn't do any wounds, though. I think I used those 3 shoot dice to do that. The stage 1. Oh, actually, the stage 1 moving up there was a scout move that I got for my recon because I won the recon test. So that's why he moved 1, and now he's moving 1 again. Enemy zombie there coming over. And the dogs are joining the stage 1 up behind cover, trying to get as much cover as possible. There's a big gap under this wall here. And up on the top, you can see there's another zombie. So fairly similar lists, but not identical. And look at that, the Teratons just listening for each other on each side of the wall. So whoever gets the first crack at that will be able to attack, should they choose to. There's obviously a risk bounding straight into an enemy that is identical. You have a slight advantage, of course, because you'll get the 1 extra dice for moving into the fight. So you typically want to be the person going into the fight, unless, of course, you have friends in the cube with you. The plague swarm is just hiding for now, because I've realized going that way isn't going to be a good idea, because most of the enemy shooting was perhaps looking down on this area, so it's going around that way instead. And I want to counter the potential aberration threat as well. And there's an enemy dog moving up here. Obviously 3 models here protecting, I believe this is the area that contains the objective on the enemy side, which is where I want to reach ideally. And at the end of the first turn, 1 point each. So nothing too exciting happening yet, but we're mostly combat armies, so I'll be expecting more in the next round. So here's my command dice for the second round. Obviously, movement is very nice. Extra dice, you can never really argue with that. 2 fight, which could come in very handy because we're about to do some fighting. The Teratons are definitely in range. And the splat, which I don't really like with the stage 1, but it's the price you pay because I think the stage 1 is very, very tasty. His splat, it can help you occasionally, but a lot of the time, especially when I'm rolling, it does nothing. Okay, so the Teraton on Teraton War breaks out, and I get the first go at it, so I decide to go. Even though there is a stage 1, the enemy general lurking there, who, if I were to kill the enemy Teraton in one go, the stage 1 could come into here, I think. I'm not sure if he could get through that gap, but he could climb up here and down if he's got a movement dice, which he may well do. And a dog is killed. And I didn't take a picture of whatever killed it, did I? Oh, I see. It was with a fight dice. So what my Teraton must have done, the dog must have been up here. So the Teraton moved up there, killed the dog, and then moved down there. So I'm not sure whether I used move dice or a teleport action there. But regardless, the dog is dead. And with a fight dice as well, still a bit of a stalemate there between the Teratons, I think. So the HMG of the enemy is up again, and it downs my HMG and kills it. Oh dear. That's what you get if you're shooting from lower ground. The enemy is at quite a decent advantage there, if you can get the high ground with your shooting. And it also downs my dog as well, who's sitting on the 1 there. So it's wounded and pinned, so someone charges into combat. Although it does look like it's just looking for a bit of a belly rub there, doesn't it? So I'm not sure anyone would want to charge into combat with it when it's trying to be so adorable. But, of course, the enemy dog charges in and finishes it off. So there's the dead dog as evidence. My other dog, though, charges up there, and it's a bit of a stalemate. And the enemy, again, I'm not sure if this one is an HMG or not, but it kills my other zombie. So I've lost both my zombies now. And then my Plague Swarm bounds up there. It's agile, which makes it easier to climb up these tall structures here. And I may have used a movement dice to get it up there as well, because it was pretty far back. But kills the dog with the assistance of my dog. Down here, the mortar missed again. Okay, so you can see a little overview of what's developing here. The Teratons are obviously having their little war down there. I've got my stage 1 there and the enemy stage 1. There is a gap under this wall here, so they're not very far apart. I've got the dog in the same cube as my stage 1. Should he decide to move in and attack, that assistance I've got there would be a bit of an equalizer. And the Aberration is, of course, a big threat here. But that is also something that he has guarding his objective at the back there, which he doesn't want me to land on. And I've just struck a blow for controlling this area around here with my Plague Swarm going up there. So the Aberration may not be too eager to rush in. And then, so I believe he had something in here, a zombie perhaps with his stage 1. And then I moved my dog in there and attacked the zombie rather than the stage 1. So managed to kill the zombie and take a wound. Oh, that was the zombie's wound there. But it's dead. So there's the dead zombie. I'm pretty sure that was the zombie's wound anyway. Oh, that may be the dog's wound, actually. This dog may have been wounded earlier. But regardless, the zombie is dead. There we go. So what that does, that means that his stage 1 doesn't have a buddy in this cube now. So if I get my stage 1 in there, because they're size 3, so I can fit a stage 1 and a dog in the same cube, I'll get a little bit of an advantage in that fight should I have a move dice to get in there. Evidence of the dead zombie there. So there's my stage 1, and he would need a move dice to reach the enemy stage 1 at this stage, and I don't think, I said stage a lot there, and I don't think he actually has a move dice to play with right now. Okay, the enemy Aberration, which has a mid pack, and you can see that it's got some serious danglage going on, which is a modification of the model. It's not there typically. He climbs down from his perch, so he is threatening this area because he's got potential move 2 plus maybe a move dice. So he's a threat to all this area around here. So he's playing a little bit defensive with it. But then the enemy Teraton decides to break away from combat with a teleport, which a bold move, but he ends up on the objective that's worth 4 or 5 points. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to clear him off this turn. So a smooth move there from him. And no, that was right at the end of the turn. So if you have to use up all your activations before the enemy, then they can make last-ditch moves like that to jump onto objectives or throw you off them, and there's not much you can do about it because the turn's about to end. So you can see it's currently 5 points to me and 7 to the enemy due to that jumping onto the objective at the end there. So, of course, my stage 1 decides he doesn't want that Teraton sitting there unopposed for the whole game because I do have my mortar right close to here as well. So the Teraton would be able to munch on that, which I don't like the sound of, if he gets bored of sitting on the objective, of course. So stage 1 goes right in there but doesn't do anything. My dog goes all the way across to the other side of this little valley here and kills whatever was up there. I believe it killed something. If it didn't, then it just perched up there. But, oh yes, it did kill this guy. Yep, picture of the corpse. See, my professional in-depth photography does help. And those are the dice. I used both all 3 of those dice, I think, and I still have those 2 left. So I would have used the move dice to get the dog all the way over there, probably used the extra dice in the fight, and I used the extra activation just to go with 2 models first, because I wanted to activate the stage 1 to get the Teraton, and then the dog as well, before the enemy had a chance to go. What does the HMG do? Well, it shoots at the dog, but it's already in a cube that has one of his models in it as well. So it suppresses the whole cube, and I don't think it does anything because I believe that dog was already wounded. And he has another go, and he shoots and suppresses the Plague Swarm because he was already wounded as well. But the Plague Swarm being suppressed is annoying because it slows him down. And the mortar, what does it do? Oh, it knocks down the HMG, knocks him off his perch there, and it also knocks down a zombie. And look at that, a broken piece of terrain. Disgraceful. So, my Teraton was attacked by his stage 1, and you can see it took damage. I think it took 2 wounds, so my Teraton's just getting out of there as quickly as possible. Because he doesn't want to be stuck fighting him, so he would have made that move, and then I believe maybe he did this with a move dice, or if this is just a teleport, and then he's going to move somewhere else in a minute. He may have killed something by landing in this square, but he wanted to get out there anyway. And look at that, the enemy Teraton decides that he's had enough of fighting with my stage 1, doesn't want to stay down there, moves all the way up here against the Plague Swarm. So it's evenly contested around here at the moment. And he punches him down off the cliff as well, which isn't very nice. Teraton's having that knockback ability is very, very handy, especially when it comes to objectives. And the Plague Swarm has already had its move, of course, so it's not going to be able to go back up there. My dog bounds onto the very juicy objective of the enemy, so that's going to be worth 4 or 5 points. And did it kill something when it got there? There's no picture of a corpse, so probably not. Enemy Aberration moves in, trying to kill my stage 1, and look at that, does 2 damage. So he got a nice roll there. So there's a little overview of how it's looking. So there are still plenty of big gribblies on the table, 1 each down here, a couple here, and 1 there. And if you consider the Plague Swarm a big gribbly, then it's down there. I've got my dogs pretty dominant in this area over here. He's committed a lot of his models forward. He doesn't have a lot to defend with at the back, so I can be sitting on his objective. Of course, he does have the Teraton, which has the range and the reach to get around there with its teleport and then maybe a move dice. End of that round, I've clawed it back significantly. So I am now on to 11 points and the enemy on to 9. So I'm in the lead. You need to get to 16 points, by the way, to win, I believe, in the first round. I think that's right anyway. Then, moving on, we've got my command dice here. And I must have already used some of these by the time the picture was taken because they've been split into 2 piles. And look at that. Teraton goes up there just to secure this objective here. And Mortar, what does it do? Knocks down the Teraton off his perch up there, which means he's pinned, so he's now not going to be able to use his teleport action. But look at that, though. He manages to kill my stage 1, who is worth 4 points. And he is perched on my objective there as well. Some of these pictures may be out of order, actually. Yes, I think they might well be. Okay, So, looking at the way the battlefield is shaping up here, I've got there. I think this may actually be the end of the game here. So there may be some picture missing. Now, it looks like the enemy pick up a lot of points and get to 17, and I get to 16. So, okay, yeah, that's it. So we both reach the victory threshold. I was confused for a second there. We've both reached the victory threshold, which means it is a draw, because you need to get 16 points to win, but we both reached it. And there are no kind of tiebreaker situations. If you both get there, it's just a draw. So there weren't any pictures missing. I was just looking down at my little score sheet and seeing how many points people had, and it didn't seem to add up, but I do believe it is correct. So there we go. The enemy killing off my stage 1 at the end there saved them from a loss, because not only did they kill the stage 1, but they also were able to sit on the objective, which was worth about 5 points. And then I think I only got 5 points at the end for also sitting on an objective or 2. So starting off the tournament with a draw, which isn't a bad thing. So I think we have a little overview of what caused the victory points at the end there. So I got 1 there, and I believe it's 4 for sitting on that one. Enemy gets 4 there, plus killing my stage 1, and the stage 1 of the enemy is sitting on an objective there. So there is actually a bonus tournament point for killing the enemy leader, which my opponent did manage. So there's the kill pile. There's what I managed to kill, and there's what the enemy managed to kill. So pretty damn close. Only 1 point in it, but neither of us could prevent the other person from reaching the victory threshold, so it is a draw. And this is the next scenario now. But just to round off game 1, I think overall it was probably a fair result. I think we both had a fairly decent strategy. We both were attempting to make sneaky maneuvers to outwit the other, but in the end, we couldn't really do it. It was just too even. We both had bits of luck throughout the game, and in the end, probably a fair result. So I ended that with 2 tournament points. My opponent got 3 because he killed my leader and I didn't kill his. So you get 0 points for a loss and you get 4 for a win, with that bonus, of course, being available if you kill the enemy leader. So game number 2 is Scour 2.0. Oh, we've got a comment from Greg who says, how long did the game take? All of these games, they didn't take too long. I believe we had about 90 minutes for each game. And I think we were all pretty much within time on that. The tournament seemed to run as it was supposed to. I don't believe anyone went horribly over. Generally at a tournament, because I'm taking pictures, my games usually run right up to the allotted time. I don't generally go over time at all at tournaments, but generally I'll use up the available time because I'm spending precious seconds taking pictures. It's the same in Kings of War. My clock usually gets close to the end, and I'm usually one of the last to finish, but don't generally go over time. I think I've got it down to a fine art, this taking pictures while also being tactically and strategically sound. So here we go. So Scour is, of course, where there are lots of items around the place, and you want to be picking them up and bringing them back into the corner of the table, into the corner of your deployment area. Scour 2.0, I think, changes it so you don't have to leave with the items. You just have to deposit them in the corner with a free action. So I'm going to be struggling with this scenario a bit because I've got a lot of beasts in my list. How many models do I have that are not beasts? I have the Stage 1A, who is too slow to be of any use at all in accomplishing that objective. I have a Mortar Team and a Specialist with an HMG, who really I wouldn't want to be sending out there to collect things and bringing them back because they want to be shooting. So the HMG is looking like the best option for this scenario, and the Teraton. So the Teraton is a decent option, but I want him to be fighting more often than not. He does have the speed, though, so he would be able to do it. But I've got a lot of beasts, so not ideal. And you can see I've set up in the corner here. This is the deployment area. You have 4 squares, 4 cubes in each direction. So I've got a zombie up there. I've got my stage 1 and a zombie down there. Dog with the mortar, HMG, and there are some things under the buildings as well. I've got the Teraton hiding under here because there are no windows, so he can't be shot. You can see his tail there sticking out. And in that building, I've got my plague swarm. So the enemy, it's the Marauders. So basically the Deadzone orcs. And there is a Rainmaker who has a 1-use indirect fire weapon, which I'm a little bit concerned about. And he also has a sniper, which I don't like the sound of at all. And you can see some of this stuff. I think that's his leader up there. And another model down there and down there. He's got a few more beasts. I think he's got 3 more beasts, which are nasty. They're definitely better than my dogs if it gets into a one-on-one fight. So there's a bit of an overview. So you can see where the items are. And he's got quite a few beasts as well, so he might struggle to collect points with the scenario as well. So there's 2 down here, a couple there. There's one right up on this tower, which is going to be difficult to claim. And I can't see any of the other. Oh, there's one right there. There's one, and I can't see the others, but there are some at that end as well. So the first turn, command dice, that's always nice. Getting 2 movement, which is what you want for this plague list, because some of those models want to be getting that extra move. It's handy for the stage 1 because he's so slow. Things like the Aberration can get into combat faster. The Teraton, it's handy because it gives him an additional move on top of his teleport, which makes him really fast. An extra shoot dice is nice early on because I've got some shooty weapons at the start of the game before they get killed. And an extra fight probably won't come up in turn 1, but you never know. And my enemy has a bit of a wide variety there. His splat, by the way, gives a special rule to his units where he, I think it's kind of a, what's it called? The same thing that an HMG has. Weight of fire. I think it gives kind of a weight of fire, but in combat. So, I believe that would be called, is that called frenzy then when you have rate of fire in combat? I think it probably is. Let me look here. See if I have any info on this. Yeah, I think it is actually. I think it is. So he can put, I think it's Frenzy 4, which means he can reroll 4 failed dice in combat with that splat. So that is really, really potent. His sniper, what does it do immediately? It looks like it tried to shoot over here but missed. My Teraton moves up and finds some ammo, which it's going to collect, but I'm not too much of a hurry to take it back to my deployment area. So the Rainmaker, what does it do? Oh, look at that. It kills my mortar instantly with its indirect fire. Wow, wow. So the mortar doesn't get to shoot, which is unfortunate. One of my dogs is running off down towards the left-hand side. I'm trying a bit of a pincer movement. I'm going around both sides and ignoring the middle because I think the enemy is going to beat my force in a stand-up fight. So I'm going to have to be sneaky about this. A more beast moving up. Another dog joining that dog, giving it a bit of support in there. And a more beast claiming the center as well. So my HMG jumps up from down there and it's going to take fire and it kills the sniper in 1 hit, which is nice. He was out in the open. I'm not sure if I had a clear shot or not, but if I did, that would have been something that contributed to that death. And then I managed to kill the more beast as well. Well, not kill the more beast, I just suppressed the more beast, but I did kill the sniper. I've got a zombie in the middle, which is kind of like bait. I just want to bring something in here so I can then strike at that area. My plague swarm has gone down there as well with the dogs, just sending this little mobile death force on this side. Then 2 more beasts in the middle, which are going to be tough to shift. One of my dogs is killed. So here's how it's looking. I'm still pretty much hiding because he has superior firepower since I lost my mortar. My HMG is still very handy though. He's mostly combat based though, so he doesn't have that many guns. I just think they're quite good. So he's in the lead 4-2 at this stage. Remember, you need to get to 16. So that is pretty much perfect. 3 movement dice, so I can be moving all the stuff I want to. an extra fight dice, which is nice, extra shoot, because I've still got something that can shoot left, and extra dice is just a little bit of all-round handiness at all times. The enemy don't have that many guns left, but he got 3 shoot dice, so that's not very good. The 2 splats, though, like I was saying, are tasty. HMG, what does it do? Well, it suppresses both those more beasts for a start, and it also suppresses, I believe that's his leader. The Teraton is working its way around here. It drops the ammo there because I don't want to be carrying it towards his deployment area in case he kills me and then picks it up and just drops it there for a free point. I think he may have got a point already for depositing an item in his corner. And he's using a splat. And he used it on his Moorbeast, which makes it really, really nasty in combat, and it killed my dog instantly. So there you go, dog's dead. I do move the Plague Swarm in there, though, and kill the Moorbeast in retaliation. And then he puts the splat on a different Moorbeast and kills another dog. So 2 dead dogs. My stage 1 is going up there, hiding mostly. And my zombie charges the tower that had 2 Moorbeasts in there. They were down, so it killed one of them while it was pinned. And then, look at that, it kills the other one. I think that was when the dog attacked him back, possibly. So this is just super zombie, killing 2 Moorbeasts in 1 turn. There you go. But look at that. This orc is having none of it. This heavily kitted out combat monster just mows down the zombie easily. But the zombie has more than paid for itself with those 2 kills. So it's very, very tight at this stage. 5 to me, 6 to the Marauders. I send my Plague Swarm after his leader, thinking I might as well take the opportunity and try and strike while the iron is right there and hot, but can't kill it. Stage 1 moves up there into that building, and he's going to try and kill off that Marauder that moved up there to kill Super Zombie, and put 2 wounds on it, but don't finish it off yet. And his final Moorbeast, looks like he had 4 Moorbeasts. So this one manages to kill the HMG, who I'd left unguarded at the stage. Then his Rainmaker moves for an open shot on my Plague Swarm from up here, which counteracts the effect of him having a model in there. And with that, he manages to do a couple of wounds. So there's a bit of an overview of how it's looking right now. Neither of us are really going for the objectives at all. There was just 1 item removed from the table by the enemy, and I haven't been going for it at all. I've just been killing and encircling and playing quite conservatively. My Teraton is hiding back here somewhere. So not many points picked up that round. I've got extra activation, extra fight, which is handy at this stage of the game, extra dice and a splat, which I'm not a big fan of. And there, the Plague Swarm is dead. Oh dear. I move my Teraton behind this building here, ready to strike. And the enemy leader jumps down there because he's now out of range of a Teraton. A Teraton who potentially could get a move dice next turn. He's now out of the threat range of that. And you can see something here. Oh yeah, I know what it was. The dog that killed the HMG charged into the Teraton, ran right into his big turtle-like plague-infested fist and killed itself. Okay, so I actually picked up a few points there. So did the enemy. So we're getting closer to that 16-point threshold, but are we close enough? So let's see, what have I got here? I have got 9, and the enemy has 10. So very, very close. We need to get to 16, though, and it's looking relatively unlikely. Now, that is a tasty setup. Because I've lost so many models, I'm going to be going first, I think. So having an extra activation dice to use, very handy, and the extra move dice, as I've explained, very nice. The enemy's got extra move, which probably quite handy for him as well. So, I believe my stage 1, who probably killed that model in there earlier, I think when it activated, it maybe tried to fight or get away and was killed. That's probably what happened there. So my stage 1 has just moved down there because it can't reach anything before the end of the game, so it's just moving out of sight so no one can shoot it. Teraton tries to attack the Rainmaker, but he's not going to kill it. And a Moorbeast charges up there to try and team up on the Teraton, But another Morbeast kamikazes into the Teraton's fist and dies because look what he rolled. Had to take a picture of this. Not a single hit out of all those dice. So that Morbeast died as well as a result of the Teraton. The Rainmaker runs away and pokes his gun through the window to try and shoot my stage 1. Very creative. But he can't do it, so I picked up just 1 point in the final turn for the Morbeast, which means we end on 10 points each. So let's have a look at the last time we had a bit of an overview. So yeah, those are the models that survived. We didn't focus on the objective at all because we didn't have armies that were built to actually accomplish the task. So many beasts out there. I think about half the models on the table were beasts, and the ones that weren't didn't want to be spending their time ferrying items back for 1 victory point. I think even if we did focus on the objectives, we wouldn't have been able to gather enough of them to win based on the final score. What really happened was that my opponent pushed into the center, I pushed around the edges, and we never had a big stand-up fight where everything just piled in one place. It was all a little bit of fighting here, a little bit of fighting there, and not enough kills to get up there towards the victory threshold. So, another draw, and neither leader was killed, so that's another 2 points for me, 2 points for my opponent as well. So I'm up to 4 points in the tournament now. And mission 3, which is the circus. Now, I took a picture of the deployment map for this one. So, each side deploys in opposite corners, and then there are some objectives around the middle, which can be claimed at the end of each round. So, we're going up to my 200-point list now. And as we have a look at my models in a second, I'll tell you the changes. So the only thing to come out of the list is one of the zombies. So I'm down to 1 zombie, and then 2 models come in, which are an Aberration and a Stage 2. You can see the Stage 2 down here, actually, and the Aberration up there. So like I was saying, the Aberration seems like a bit too much with a Stage 1. To have both of them in 150 points seems a bit excessive to me, but in 200 points, it's definitely very feasible. And I had to drop one of the zombies and then brought in a Stage 2 just to keep my number of unlock slots because I've got a lot of specialists that I wanted to use. So my basic troops, I think I've got the dogs, the Stage 2, and the zombie. And then the specialists, I've got the Aberration, the Mortar Team, the Teraton, and the Plague Swarm. And the specialist with the HMG, if I didn't mention that. Okay, so you can see that I'm against enforcers here, and this is the nightmare setup for me. This particular setup on this board against enforcers, and my enemy won the recon test, so he could choose which corners he wanted, and of course he took this nice big tall one with a view over the whole area. So I'm going to have to set up most of my models in sight of his shooting, so I'm just going to have to hope I survive it and can get there, ride my luck a bit for a turn or two, and then get into combat and start munching on things. But he does have a Strider, so it's going to be no pushover when I do get there. So, on this side, I've got Zombie, the Stage 2, the Teraton hiding under there to limit who can shoot him. The Mortar, this was the best place I could put it, but it's still not ideal because lots of enemies can see it. And over in this corner, I've got my Stage 1, my Aberration, HMG, Plague Swarm, and Dog. And I think I've got 2 dogs in this corner. You can just see them hiding under the ramp there. So I'm not going to be able to get out of sight, but I can prevent him getting clear shots by trying to get as close to all this terrain as possible. The enemy have got a couple of snipers up there. There's someone down there as well. That's probably just a regular troop. Strider. There is a peacekeeper with a shield there, another sniper here, and some regular troops down there, I think. There may be a dog as well. So, there's my command dice, and it looks like I've already used 2 of the extra dice. And I don't have any extra movement, which is what I always want. So the snipers, first of all, they start chipping away at the mortar, and they do actually kill it. 2 of them shooting there, and the Strider as well shooting over there, I think. Whatever it wasn't required to kill the mortar ended up targeting the HMG, who takes damage, But for some reason, I keep rolling really well, and he survives about 5 rounds of shooting from different models. And you can see I've moved a zombie up here. Lovely cinematic shot under there. Then this guy pokes his head out, and he does finish off the HMG. So I believe it took 5 or 6 models, or 5 or 6 shots to kill the HMG, which is okay because it means some of my big Gribblies are not damaged, which gives me the opportunity to start moving up. I'm trying to have little bits of cover here and there as I move in. The Teraton is pinned because he's got some weaponry over here, maybe the Strider, that just pins things for fun. And pinning the Teraton is always handy because it stops it teleporting. Although I've been told that you can actually use a move dice to stand up and then teleport. So I may have to consider that in future. So turn 1, not much killing done at all. Really just points for the mortar. And I was sitting on one of the objectives, I think. So next turn, a couple of activations. Again, no movement. Not ideal. My enemy gets some movement, which he's probably not that keen on. So the dog and the zombie team up to take out the guy that was on here. I think the zombie went in first and then the dog came up, or the other way around. Managed to kill that guy off. There he is. Or she, can't really tell there. Then we have this sniper. What does it do? Oh, it kills the zombie. But the dog's still standing. Stage 1 is working his way down this way towards the enemy who are perched on the building in this bottom right-hand corner as I looked at it mostly. Stage 2 works his way up there, which is a bit of a mistake, and you'll see why in a minute. The dog is just perched in this corner hiding, trying to claim this point. And it's going to be difficult for the enemy to see him. They're going to have to move. Okay, so that guy is dead, that dog. I can't remember what shot it. It may have been the sniper peeked his barrel over the edge and got an open shot on him and killed it. Plague Swarm moves up onto this little hill here behind this crate, trying to avoid being open shot to death. And now this guy, he was down here, but he was able to move diagonally from here up into there without going into the cube that had the stage 2 in it. So that was a bit of a mistake on my part. And he then had an open shot on stage 2 and killed it. So there we go. Teraton jumps up onto there. He's working his way towards the enemy, but he does get pinned again by shooting. And the Aberration walks up to this building here, avoiding being open shot by the snipers because there's a ledge that pokes out there, so he's just keeping his head underneath. But he does take 3 damage because one of the snipers does shoot him. So he is going to potentially rampage next turn, and he's almost dead as well. So there's a bit of an overview. And I've lost quite a few models already, but some of my big Gribblies are getting closer to the enemy. It's not looking good, though, as my Aberration is heavily wounded and I've not done enough killing yet. Yeah, there's the dog. He worked his way up there with the dog. So he's going to be shooting down on me. So at the end of that turn, and you need 20 victory points to win these now because it's gone up to 200 points. So there, 6 for the enemy, 3 for me so far. And look at this. You may notice that the enemy have been deleted somewhat, and there's an Aberration sitting on top of the hill. That is because on the rampage roll, I rolled a 7, which is the best possible result, meaning that he goes nuts. And he gets a free move before he does his regular move. So he was able to take the free move to jump up here, mince the guy that was sitting on this cliff here, eat him for dinner, and then bounce all the way up there with his actual move. He was able to climb up there and eat both of them, both snipers, one of which was in fact the leader, I think. So yeah, Aberration just mauls through 3 models while almost dead. I did have to use some dice, so I've killed 3/4 of the models that I've put in the death pile in just that one moment there. So that Aberration definitely did his job. Took out 2 snipers, the leader and a regular troop. The leader being one of the snipers. I'm not sure if he actually has the sniper rule. I had to use all these dice to do it. I used extra dice to guarantee the kills and used a fight dice to do the extra fight because there were 2 of them in the same cube on the top. So that Aberration has just turned things around big time. And now it's actually looking somewhat in my favour. I've just racked up quite a lot of points there. So my Plague Swarm's still lurking down there. He's still got a lot of firepower left. Oh, that's a rare view of my opponent's head there, who just leant into the shot. And then the Strider jumps down here and kills the Plague Swarm, whose head fell off earlier. It's glued back on now. So I've got my Teraton, which keeps being pinned. I've got my stage 1 there, and I've got the Aberration just about alive up there. He's got a couple of models there. Actually, I think that might be his leader. So they were just 2 snipers. That's his leader right there. And up there is the dog. So, moving on. At the end of that turn, look at all those points I got. So I picked up 8 in that turn, which puts me into the lead. And you never know, reasonable chance of winning the game. We'll see. So, my Teraton, using movement dice, is able to get up onto here, which this is the spot that his leader was in. The Teraton didn't kill it, but did knock it back and pushed it down there into the cube with the stage 1, which automatically initiates a fight. So that is a really, really handy trick. If there's someone just slightly away from you, you can shove them into one of your models so they can actually fight before they activate, if you've got the knockback ability. So pushed him over the edge, and then the stage 1 ate him for breakfast. So that is the leader dead. And working up a decent kill pile now. Then the Aberration dies, though, because on the rampage roll, well, it gives with one hand and takes away with the other, because I had that amazing roll last time that allowed him to eat all the enemies, but this time I rolled a 1 or a 2, so of course my opponent decided, you know what, you're about 4 stories up, I'm going to make your Aberration just jump off the edge, which it did, but it didn't do any damage, but then that allowed the Strider to shoot it and finish it off, and then the Strider then jumped up there. So the Aberration is dead, but it did its job, definitely. There's evidence of its demise. Over here, my stage 1, then because it didn't have to move to kill the enemy leader because he was just punched into him, my stage 1 is able to move over to this corner and get ready to jump up onto the enemy sniper next turn, because I'm going to be going first since I have less models alive. You can see my Teraton's heavily damaged there now. And he manages to suppress my stage 1, which makes no difference to him whatsoever, unless someone were to engage him in combat, which he won't, because that would be suicide. And there's a little bit of an overview. You can see not too many models left. There are objectives to be claimed, so he's going to be picking up points for that one and this one. And I don't think I'm on any of them right now, because I don't have enough models left. So, with the Aberration being killed, that does start equalizing it a little bit, so let's see what the score is right now. I've got 6 plus 8, so I've got 14, and the enemy has 8, 9, 14. So, very, very close. But we do actually find out there is a mistake on this chart later on, just so you know. And here, the stage 1 jumps up there, but can't kill the sniper. Wow. So that is embarrassing for Mr. Stage 1 there, not being able to kill a sniper. I've moved my Teraton to hide, because I'm working out the only way I'm going to lose is if he kills one of my Gribblies. So he's hiding under there. The sniper successfully moves away from the stage 1. So the stage 1 had a free hit at him and couldn't kill him. He just put 1 wound on him in both those attacks, and then gets shot, but not killed, luckily. Then the dog moves down here to get an open shot at the Teraton who's trying to hide, but cannot kill it. But he is going to pick up a point for sitting in there. And his Peacekeeper's sitting on that one, so he is going to pick up a few points, but it's not going to be enough. So, we think this is the final score, but we found out that a mistake was made earlier. So we think it's 17-14, but actually he picked up an extra point earlier on that we didn't mark down for some reason. So it actually ended 18-14, which clearly isn't enough to get to 20 points for a win. So a draw, and the dice gods smiled upon me at one point, and then with the Aberration, of course, allowing it to go on that murderous rampage, and then the dice gods, after smiling upon me, that smile turned out to just be lulling me into a false sense of security so it could puke in the direction of my breakfast, which it did heartily, and then went on a rampage, jumped off the building, and was killed. So that leveled it up, I would say. Those are the dice for you, though. So I'd say that was a pretty tasty game, definitely. The scenario and the setup, the deployment, the terrain, everything, I would say none of it favoured me. Whenever you have to set up in opposite corners like that, you're finding yourself facing gunfire from 2 directions, which is much more difficult to hide from than just one direction. So, yeah, when I was facing an army with so many snipers, I found myself in a difficult position there. But managed to get a draw out of it, so I would put that down as a very solid performance. And I actually killed the enemy leader, so I got 3 points, my opponent only got 2. So I'll take that any day of the week. There's the dead pile. And there's my dead pile, which is vastly bigger. Okay, we are now on to round 4, which is the breakthrough scenario. Breakthrough 2.0, in fact, and I can tell you the change. So breakthrough is where you want to escape your models off the enemy off the enemy deployment area, so off their table edge. However, of course, if you move your models off too soon, then you're not giving yourself a chance to kill the enemy with them. So it's a balancing act. When do you jump off the table to maximize how many points you're going to get from them? Breakthrough 2.0, the change in it is that instead of just getting the value of the model in victory points that you escape off the table, you get their value +1, which makes it a lot more worth it to escape from the table rather than allowing yourself to be killed. So even a zombie that's worth 0 is actually worth 1 if you can escape it off the table edge on the other side, which isn't that likely for a zombie. But it's a pretty good scenario for me because I have a lot of big gribbly monsters that are worth a lot of victory points that are hard to kill. So if I can march them across, do some killing, and then escape, the escape zone is in the area they already want to be in, then it could be pretty tasty for me. Encourages movement, so of course it's good for my combat-based army. And you can see, I've played on this table before. If you remember a previous tournament video, there's a big tower in the middle and these kind of trenches. But there's not a lot of cover in the setup areas, short of being down here, and you can still be seen from the other side from certain angles, so it's not that easy. So I've got my Aberration and Mortar and Plague Swarm in there, hiding as best they can. I've got my stage 1 and a zombie there. The Teraton, who I may well have won the recon test and moved the Teraton into there. And then I've got my stage 2 hiding there. I've got an HMG over here and a dog there. A zombie there if I didn't mention it. And the enemy, I'm against Enforcers again. So, second time in a row facing Enforcers. Somewhat similar lists, because they're very similar actually. There is the Strider, there is a Sniper somewhere, there is a Leader who is kind of a Sniper in their own right, there is a Dog somewhere, and there are probably slightly more regular troops in this list. There's no Peacekeeper, so there are some differences between this and the previous game. And when you're just walking towards a wall of gunfire, you need a bit of luck on your side. There is a lot of cover to avoid being open shot, but there will come points where if I don't get movement dice, I may be stuck in places where the enemy can reposition for open shots when I start to get towards their lines. If I end up down in these trenches, the enemy can, of course, just lean over the edge and open shot whatever's down there. So we'll see. I do have some rapid movement that can get into these fairly weak snipers. I've got my dogs, and I've got the Teraton, of course. So we'll see if they can factor into this. Nice view there. You can see the kind of line of sights that are available here, or lines of sight, should I say. So enemy there looking down on my dogs. So the Mortar immediately knocks this guy down. I think I was probably aiming for the Sniper, but it scattered onto him. Then the Strider moves up and puts some damage onto the Teraton, which is not fun. The Teraton then moves forward using teleport and a move dice. He's able to get into combat with this guy down here, who's slightly out of shot, but it's just a regular trooper, I think, but can't kill it, which is unfortunate. I would have expected him to eat him for breakfast, but no. The HMG moves up, and what's that? First of all, it's knocked down a sniper, but it's also killed somebody. I'm not sure if he's just a regular troop, but he is dead. The HMG rolled pretty well, and I probably used my ammo on the shot as well. Auric Lovegod says, loving your tournament reports. Yes, I'm sure everyone loves my tournament reports because I'm such a fantastic player at multiple game systems, and my analyses are so in-depth, and they give you an insight into a genius tactical mind. So this guy moves up here, and what does he do? He takes a shot and wounds my stage 2, which is going to mean that's a bit dangerous because he could go on a rampage and attack my own stuff, so I'm going to have to leave him till the end to activate and move away from him. Then this guy takes a shot, and he wounds a dog. Down here you can see I'm hiding my 2 biggest threats behind this tower in the center to minimize what can hit them. Very few models will be able to shoot at them because there are some very solid walls between them. So they'll have to really work the angles if they want to maybe shoot the Aberration because it sticks out a bit. The zombie's hiding in there as well. And the Plague Swarm is trying to hide as well, just behind this wall, but it is actually in this cube, so it can be shot quite easily. So a bit of an overview. You can see there, no one's going to be going up into this tower, I'm pretty sure. The enemy will want to stay back and prevent me reaching the end and escaping to get lots of victory points. And I just want to be marching forward as fast as possible. So that probably doesn't include climbing up onto a tower. Okay, so there's the enemy lines there. And there's my lines. And there's the other angle. It's very yellow, isn't it? So, turn 1, I just killed that 1 model. Hello to Raphael Marge in the chat there. 1 model dead, and nothing on my side has been killed by all those snipers, which is a huge bonus. If you don't lose anything in turn 1 as the plague, when you're marching towards a wall of fire, then that is a very good sign, because it means they're going to be really pushed to kill everything before it gets there. It's going to be difficult for him from now on. So I've got move dice, which is nice, extra shoot, which is nice, because I've still got my shooting models left. Fight, which is good. Maybe not yet. I'm not doing that much fighting, but it will be handy. Because what it will allow me to do, my Teraton can potentially go on some kind of deadly rampage because it's already in a cube with an enemy in it. So I can use the fight dice to attack somebody. I could then teleport into a different cube and attack somebody else. And then if there's someone in the adjacent cube to that, I could then use a move dice. So I could potentially have 3 fights in one go with the Teraton if I play it right and if I get some lucky dice rolls. Because there are a lot of small, juicy targets around to fight. And my enemy gets extra shooting, which is always bad for me, and an extra move, which I'm not worried about at all. But he doesn't get any extra activations, which is what I want to avoid, because it means he can pop off multiple sniper shots. He's still going to be able to get a few in, but not as many. So this guy seems to be going first, or maybe his leader there. I think this is his leader sniper, possibly. It clears out this building here, which had 2 dogs up there. So both dogs are dead from 1 model's activation. So my plan with the Teraton does go into effect. I use the fight dice, but don't wound that guy again. And then I move up there, either with teleport, probably with teleport, rather than a move dice. And wow. I think, do I kill that guy? Nope. Don't kill him either. So the Teraton has not been doing a very good job so far. Raphael Marge says, haven't been into Deadzone since 1st edition. I really got down when I bought my box, and then a few weeks later they announced 2nd edition. Yeah, that is a bit of an annoyance, but everything apart from the rules from that box is still very good. The terrain and all the models are still valid. And the terrain is the main fun part of Deadzone as far as I'm concerned. So still juicy, just need to get a new rule book. Tokens, maybe. Then what goes on here? So whichever model didn't activate, I think it's probably this guy that killed the dogs. So what does the sniper then do? Kills my HMG. So yeah, models are starting to drop. The mortar then knocks both these guys off their perches. So I think that was with 2 separate shots because I had an extra shoot dice. So knocked the sniper down and knocked him down, which is nice because none of them are on this thing here, which means that my size 3 or bigger creatures can now attack them because they can't walk on this area because it's only half cube size, so you need to be size 2 or smaller to fight on there. So they're now right in the open, and this one's, at least this one is already activated, which means that he's not going to be able to move out of the way, so I'm going to be able to nibble on him in a minute. This guy, this might be the leader, actually. He kills my stage 2 who was hiding under here. Yep, there he is. And my dog bounds in and attacks this guy, who had fallen down, but I can't kill him. My Plague Swarm moves up and hides in this building here. If you recall, the Plague Swarm was hiding down on this side with the Aberration and the Stage 1. And then this guy moves over here to have a shot. This is the guy that the Teraton was fighting, but somehow failed to kill it twice. And he takes a shot. I think he picks up some intel first, actually, so he gets a victory point for that. And then he tries to shoot my Stage 1. Now, to avoid being open shot, I have dug his claws kind of behind this fan, so his fingernails being obscured prevents him being open shot. That's the way the rules are written, so it's just the way you have to do these things. Angle your models so that bits of their body are behind corners. Then, like I said, the Aberration just charges up there, eats the fallen sniper who'd been knocked off his perch by the mortar. So that is a really good combo, actually. A Plague offensive Gribbly list with so many models that can't fight on half cubes because it's too small an area for them. Having a mortar to knock people down off their perch so you can then attack them is a really good combo. A grenade launcher would do the same job as well. So he's dead. I should point out as well that there was a charity token in this tournament, and you could use that to get an extra command dice once per game. So if you ever noticed that I had one more command dice than I should have done, then that's why. So my Teraton is still fighting up there, as you can see. The Strider has moved up into this little room here, which you would barely fit into. So at the end of that turn, the Enforcers have done a fair bit of victory point gathering there with plenty of kills and picked up some intel as well. So at the moment, I've got 5 Enforcers with 6. Here's my command dice for the next turn. Movement, which is always nice. Extra activation, which is okay, but I may never actually use it. We'll see. Extra dice and fight, which are pretty standard tasty. Enemy's got extra activation and shoot, which is always bad news because he's going to be able to fire off a lot of shots before I go. Or I'm probably going first, actually, but before I move after his first activation. So, Aberration jumps up there, eats one guy, who I think is was it a sniper? It may have been, I can't tell who's a sniper and who's not out of these. This is definitely a sniper, but he was already eaten, I think, so it may have been that guy. But definitely eaten. The Teraton does actually kill something this time. I think it killed the guy it was fighting up on the pipe and then jumped down to attack him, but couldn't kill him again. This guy's just impervious to Teraton attacks for some reason. But that guy did get killed by the Teraton first, so there's some juicy points for me. Up here, the Aberration is being suppressed by the dog. So at this stage, he could just keep pinning my Aberration. It's going to be difficult for it to reach anything. So my Aberration really is probably going to end up trying to walk off the table now, because that's going to be worth 5 victory points to me if I can get him off the edge. Because he's not going to do much fighting if he keeps getting pinned. And a nice overall view here. You can see the Teraton in the fight down there. Got my mortar still alive. It's handy that the mortar's alive at this stage because there are a lot of enemies perched on these little areas that I want to shoot down. So I picked up a lot of points in that turn, going into the lead. And here's my dice for the next turn. So movement and activation. All right, extra shoot. I don't really need to because my HMG's dead, but I would have tried to re-roll and failed. Or maybe I can't re-roll anymore because I've lost so many models. And there is my extra dice as well. Enemy with a nice mixture also. So the Strider takes a shot at my Stage 1 who has moved up there. We haven't heard much about him yet because he's been slowly working his way up. And he's jumped up into this area because I want to escape him off the table because he's too slow and all the enemies are too far away or on perches that he can't reach now. So he's just going to try and escape. But he takes some damage from the Strider's big gun. Then this guy kills my dog in close combat, which is not very nice. There he is, the poor little fella. And my Stage 1 moved to here, but was then killed by his leader. So he's killed my leader, and he's got quite a few victory points for that as well. There he is, as a corpse. The Aberration gets pinned again. At the end of turn 4 then. So the enemy picks up quite a few points there, so we could be heading for another draw. I've got, what's that, 10? And my opponent has 11. We need to get to 20 to win. So I don't have many dice now because my leader's dead, but I do get extra movement, which is what I wanted. So the Aberration's going to be able to escape. And he's got quite a bit of shoot, which is nice for him. So the Aberration uses a move dice to escape from the table, which is going to give me 5 victory points. The Teraton uses his teleport and move to get off the table as well, which is, let's just check how many points he's worth. I think he's worth 3. Yep, so he's actually worth 4 to escape. So that is 9 points there, just for those 2 models escaping. So I only have to get 1 more kill of anything to win the game now. I'm already on 19. The Mortar fires, knocks his leader down, but can only do 1 wound. If I'd done 1 more wound and killed the leader, that would have been a win and a leader kill. Huge amount of points. And then the Plague Swarm. Yes, that's right. I do actually have a Plague Swarm. So the last turn or 2, I totally forgot he existed because he was inside this building and I couldn't see him. So I just wasn't activating him because I forgot he existed. So, wow, I'm currently on 19 points, 1 point away from victory. And surely if I'd remembered the Plague Swarm existed, he could have jumped out and killed something by now. This guy was sitting in here fighting a dog for a couple of turns, so he could have come in there and killed him quite easily. But he bounces out here, despite rolling a lot of dice to attack this guy, cannot wound him for the life of it. So he can't make the kill, which means that that 1 victory point that I failed to get in the last turn means that it's a draw. So I think I played the scenario quite well. I got my big Gribblies towards the end zone and then was able to bounce them off the edge to get lots of victory points. But I just couldn't get over the line, and forgetting that the Plague Swarm existed until right at the end is a killer blow. Rafael Marsh says, are Marauders and Forge Fathers still in Deadzone? Yes, they are. They were both present at this tournament. In fact, if you go back earlier in the video, you'll see that I faced a Marauder army. So, at this point, I'm going to sum up what happened in all 4 games shortly. So if you haven't seen all of it yet, if you were tuning in late, you may want to stop it now and go back to the beginning before you hear me spoil the result. And I'll also be talking about the final standings now. So your last chance to pause, go back to the beginning, or whatever. Okay, so now that those people have disappeared for a second, let's finish talking about this one. So my opponent couldn't get any more points in the final turn. He did kill my leader, though, so he was able to pick up 3 points to my 2, which is a sad, sad day. So, again, I think I did a good job playing the scenario. I think, of course, I had to have some luck walking into that wall of firepower, and I got that luck when I needed it. I just lacked a bit of luck when it came to killing things. My Teraton should have killed a couple of models way earlier than it actually did. And, yeah, so that was quite unfortunate. And, of course, the Plague Swarm should have done more. The dog, one of my dogs got a bit unlucky not to get a kill earlier as well. So, of all the games so far, this one is possibly the one that was closest to being a win. Game 1 as well was very, very close. It was only the fact that my opponent was able to kill my stage 1 with an Aberration that totally swung that into a draw from me winning. So I came close to winning 2 games, and I came pretty close to losing game 3. But again, that was very, very non-favourable in terms of the deployment areas and just the list I was facing with a lot of guns. Game 2, we didn't really come close at all to winning. Neither of us seemed to have a particularly winning strategy in that one. We were both playing far too much. Well, I was definitely skirting around the edges and my opponent was just piling into the middle. So when those 2 things combine, you're probably not going to pick enough points to win if you're not playing the scenario. Neither of us had the lists to do it, really. So overall, I ended with 9 points, all 4 draws. Can you believe it? That's the first time that's ever happened to me at a tournament for any game. The first time I've drawn every single game in a tournament. It is fairly easy to draw games in the way the tournament scoring works for Deadzone, though. Having to reach a certain point or it's just a draw. It's not a question of who killed the most or who got the most victory points. It's a question of, did you reach the victory threshold without your opponent also reaching the victory threshold? So draws are probably slightly more common than other games, but still to get 4 in a row is defying the odds. And I think overall I liked my lists, actually. They performed pretty well, most of the models. I'm still not particularly sold on the stage 2. Maybe I just use it badly, but it always seems to get killed before it does anything. So I don't really like him. I would like to get more dogs, and I am in the process of acquiring another dog, I think, which will help. And I've got lots of zombies I can use as well. So yeah, maybe take more zombies. The reason I haven't taken a lot of zombies yet is because obviously I'm taking pictures, so I don't want to use up 3 hours worth of gameplay moving 100 zombies forward. But I do have about 20 zombies I think I could use if need be. So I may try a list that has a lot in it. So overall, it was a really, really fun tournament, though. Obviously, Deadzone community, if you've taken part in any of the tournaments, especially in this region, it's very, very friendly atmosphere. The biggest prize on offer actually goes to the last placed player at these tournaments. So I like that. I like the fact that it's very, very friendly, lots of quality sportsmanship going on, not too uber competitive. Even though some people do bring some cheese in their lists, they don't then back up that cheese by having a bad attitude. So if you're going to bring cheese, have a good attitude, and everyone at these tournaments that I've encountered so far does follow that rule. So, are there any more pictures? No. So that's the end of that. Deadzone is a slightly more difficult game to track than Kings of War, because Kings of War you can get an overall picture of the battlefield and see kind of the sweeping maneuvers that are going on, rather than Deadzone, which is more back and forth, minuscule actions on either side that are difficult to capture on camera, unless you're just constantly taking pictures, which would slow down my gameplay significantly. So there are 1 or 2 minor things that I missed, but I think my memory is good enough to sufficiently report on these things with just the pictures that I have available. People do often ask how I remember so many details of all these games, and I can tell you right now that it's just a gift. I just seem to have a good memory. There's no particular trick to it. We'll whiz back through the images here. If anyone has any questions, if anyone is watching this live right now, feel free to drop them in there before we reach the beginning. And I'll talk about what I've got planned next for Deadzone. I didn't actually play on my own terrain during this tournament, but a few people did play on it, and they seemed to like it. I didn't win the Best Terrain Award, but there was apparently a really nice table that I didn't play on that had some kind of dead zombies crawling out of it in places, so I think that one won, but I didn't see it. So, because by the time I went round to vote for my favourite table, I think that one had already been packed away. So maybe that's why. But high standard of terrain, and mine seemed to go down well. And terrain is actually something I'm going to be working on very, very shortly, because I want to build my Deadzone table finally. I'm going to be, as soon as this video goes off the air, I'm going to be going into the Deadzone Fanatics group and asking where people get their foam from. And Raphael Marsh says, so you make table for people to play on it. Cool. Yeah, people do bring all their terrain. The tournament only actually provided 2 of the tables at this tournament. All the others were brought by the players who took part, which I think is a really fun thing. Obviously, it takes a bit of pressure off tournament organisers to arrange that much terrain. And you see a nice variety as well. If you leave it to the organisers, and if they don't have enough time, you'll end up with just something thrown together, cobbled together from bits. Maybe some will be unpainted. But if everyone brings their own, which is very feasible with Deadzone because it doesn't take up that much space, it's not like bringing your own custom-built 4x4 table would be a nightmare, but Deadzone is just a mat and then some terrain on it. Very, very nice. And the terrain level was maybe the highest I've seen at any tournament yet for Deadzone, and I'll put that down to players bringing their own stuff. I'd recommend, if any tournament organisers don't do that already with Deadzone, you should certainly try that. So I'm going to be building my board, which isn't just the terrain, which I'm looking at across the room right now, which is currently on a mat. I'm going to be buying some foam. I'm going to ask where people in the Deadzone Fanatics group get their foam, and I'm going to immediately start building my table that on the top is going to be fairly standard, but it's going to have a sewer system running around the edges of the board. So there's going to be an underground area that will be difficult to reach from the top. There is going to be, on each side, there will be one way to get down and up. So you're not going to be stuck, but it's going to be heavily subterranean around the edges. And then the top is going to look fairly standard. I may dig out a crevice in the middle of 4 cubes and then have like a grimy sewage pit there as well that has an optional lid that I can put over it, so it doesn't always have to be open. But that's going to be worked on very, very soon. And I also looked under my table and found that I had a very large Rebs faction, which I have never painted. I think I've got most of them from one of the Mantic Open days in a bargain bin, and I never got around to using them. So I had a look through them. I've got them on my table right now in front of me, and I've got a Teraton, I've got a Teraton Shock Trooper, I've got some Zs, I've got a Commander, I've got lots of other things staring at me. I'm lacking a little bit in basic troops, but I have a few other things I could use. I've got some Forge Fathers, and I've also ordered, I've placed an order with Bad Squiddo Games for a couple of like female soldiers with rifles, which I can use as standard, and also I ordered a sniper from there as well, because I want a sniper. And yeah, I'm going to be working on them soon. So hopefully I can have something other than Plague to play with. So I think that's going to be fun. Raphael Marsh says, I like the idea of subterranean part of the table. Yes, that's something I really want to explore. When I've built that one, if that goes well, I've got ideas for more as well, because there's so many possibilities that I feel people don't use with Deadzone. You see things like this where it's just all the terrain resting on the board. You see things like a canyon network where they'll build upwards, but without a roof on top of it, because it's difficult to have that in the middle of the table, because how would you reach your hand in there? But round the edge, it's definitely doable. But something else I want to do as well is have kind of a hill in the center that you can climb up and fight on either side, which it's difficult to get over the top of. There will be ways to get across it or through it, but some kind of hill / caves cut into the side of the hill in the middle of the table I think would be really fun. It's just making it accessible to people's fingers that is the tricky part. So that's going to take some serious planning, but that's a way off yet. I haven't even built the first one yet. So I'm going to get on that very soon. And of course, I do love the Plague. Nice sound bite there. But it would be nice to mix things up, because I've never used anything other than Plague, except maybe a couple of early games I had with Enforcers, maybe once or twice at most. But mainly I've used Plague. Whizzing back through here. Nearly back to the start. So you see what I mean? Tables like this, they're very nice, but I think there's the subterranean aspect is something people haven't explored yet. So a bit of variety. I think we need lots more like this as well, with kind of canyons. We need more that have something kind of cut into the side of it as well, like I was describing. Those are the only two that I've seen that aren't really present thus far. And I think it's going to be pretty damn sweet if I can pull it off. You'll have to wait and see on that front. So very, very fun game. And whenever I play it, it inspires me to go out and do more Deadzone building and planning and painting. So you can tell that it's a fun game where as soon as you finish playing it, you immediately want to just have more of it in your life. There's some games that don't particularly give me that feeling, but Deadzone definitely does more than most. And put some of that down to the community as well, because it's such a fun group of people generally in the world of Deadzone, especially in this area. I don't know, it could be the most miserable bunch of people in the world in another part of the country or another part of the world. You'll have to let me know. In fact, that's one for the permanent comments when the video is over. Let me know what the Deadzone community is like in your area. Is it super friendly compared to other games like it is here? And there we go, the final image. So it's time to wrap this one up, folks. And been going for a good hour and a half, I think. Maybe slightly less than that. But I think that's a decent amount of time for a tournament report and a bit of waffling at the end as usual. So I'm going to go and work on some more stuff. And actually, I may be doing another live broadcast tonight, because there is something I want to talk about that touches on an active Kickstarter that ends in a few days. So I want to do something on that very soon. That is related to World War II and bolt action. So if you're at all interested in that, then you should look out later on tonight at some point. And I will be possibly doing that tonight. If not, it would be tomorrow. And also there's going to be an Andy and Rem show this week, which looks like it's going to be Wednesday. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well, all you Age of Sigmar fans out there. And I don't have any other tournaments lined up to attend yet, but I know there is something Dreadball related coming up in a couple of weeks, which I'm hoping to go to, but we'll see how that goes. And beyond that, there are tournaments that I know of, I just don't think I've signed up for any yet. So I'll let you know as and when. And with that, it's time to say good night out there, whatever you are.